Yo guys, what's up? I'm carrying on my series against chess.com's holiday bots. Happy holidays, happy holidays. Next up, Frosty the Snowman. Too many opportunities to break into full song. Frosty the Snowman rated 1350, and I'm going to use so we're using the checklist. Why did my opponent make that move? Well, the answer is he's controlling the centre of the board. He's also releasing this bishop out to control these squares. And he's giving his queen some more forward scope. Okay, so I'm just going to meet it with the same move. Pawn to d5. I'm not playing my normal repertoire here. Okay. And also, we're not using opening theory at all at this point. This is the queen's gambit. It's telling me on the side. Why did my opponent make that move? Is attacking this pawn. Is it defended? Well, it is. It's defended by the queen, but at the 1350 level, I don't want to lose a central pawn to a wing pawn. So I want to replace that. I'm going to play this. This is the Slav defense. Okay, my opponent plays knight to here. The purpose of this move is that if he takes with this c-pawn, I take back with my c-pawn, and I haven't lost the central pawn. Why? Because we're in the opening phase of the game, the rooks can't see each other, so my aim is to control the centre, and I don't want to give away either of these pawns cheaply. Alright, why did my opponent make this move? Well, he's one step closer to casting kingside. He's also controlling two squares in the centre. Okay. So, we're in the opening phase of the game. I want to develop stuff. My queen's knight could come here. Let's bring out my king's knight here. He takes. I'm going to take back with my pawn, as previously discussed. I'm aware there's a possibility of queen a4 check, but I know that I could meet that by blocking with a piece, so I'm okay here. Why did my opponent make this move? Again, he's controlling two squares in the centre. He's also attacking this pawn. Is this pawn defended? It's defended twice. Alright, so I want to keep developing. Let's bring out the knight. Generally knights before bishops. Now, I'm not going to rush this because my opponent is rated nominally 1350. Okay. Why did he make that move? He's developing. Okay. He's also controlling some useful squares in my half of the board. Now, what's changed on the board? Well, he's still controlling these squares, which he was before from back there. He's also controlling these ones. He might be preventing this move, which is something I would very much like to play. And that's it. So I can't really move my rook to here, or my queen to here, or my queen to here. I'm attacking this once, it's defended twice. Okay. So I want to keep developing. I want to get my bishops out on the board. Let us stick this guy up here. Threatening to capture this knight. Okay, interesting. So now, why did he make that move? Well, he's attacking this pawn. He's attacking it twice. Is it defended? It's defended twice. So I'm not too concerned there. He's also effectively pinned this knight. This knight is now in a pin because if the knight should move, the queen falls. The queen is behind it. So, we've also got tension between these two pawns, right? Either pawn could capture each other. Am I okay if he captures me? Well, it's defended twice. What if I take? I'm then attacking the pinned piece. He can counterattack with pawn to h3. I could take this with the knight. I could take it with the pawn. I'm going to take with a knight, I think, because I don't want to have to think about pawn to d5. If I take with a knight, he takes my knight, I take his. However, if I take with a pawn, I'm simply attacking this piece for free. Okay, I'll take the pawn. We'll see what happens. If he pushes here, do I have to worry? Okay, so checklist. Why did they make that move? He's attacking my knight. Okay. I'm attacking the pawn twice, but it's defended twice as well. Therefore, we don't take. Because we've got equal pieces. A knight worth 3, a knight worth 3, and two queens the same. So, my knight is under attack. So we're in tactics mode. We're going to ignore, well, kind of ignore the default, which is development at this point. Capturing the pawn is not an option. My idea here, what do I need to do, is not lose my knight. So, I can't move it there because it's attacked. That's a bad square. Can't move it here because queen takes. I could move it here or here. I could put it all the way back in the box. Let's move it up the board. Move it to here. I'm still attacking his knight. Okay, interesting. So we're in check. So straight into tactics mode. Right? There's nothing else to think about. What do I want to do? Get out of check. How many ways are there of doing it? I could block with a knight. Not good. Pawn takes. I could block with this knight. Probably the best. I could block with a queen. Nah. I could block with a knight. I'm still attacking the pinned knight. And is there any reason not to take? Not that I can see. That's simply a free piece. Why did he make that move? He's recapturing material. What's changed on the board? He's really opened up his king here. Alright, now, he's also attacking my bishop. So, I don't want to lose my bishop. Defending the bishop is not an option, because it's a pawn worth 1, attacking a bishop worth 3. Okay, so I could move my bishop. I can move it here, which comes with an attack on the rook. I could move it here. I could move it here, and this one's out, because pawn takes. So, I'm going to move it. I'm thinking moving it here, which supports this idea. Attacking the rook, but it's not much of a threat, is it? This is maybe more of a threat. I'm conscious that this knight on b4 is on an unprotected square. Now I can see he's got one safe square to retreat to. If I was to play this move and try and kick the bishop away, that takes away my knight's safe square. I'm attacking this once it's well defended. I'm also looking at the idea of coming in with check and mate, but that's not playable because this bishop guards this square. So, is there anything we can do about that? But back to the checklist. Why did my opponent make that move? Well, he's saving his rook. He's also, what's changed on the board, lining up the rook with my king, which makes me somewhat uncomfortable. So I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'm uncomfortable also about, so this pawn is in a pin. This knight is also in a pin. This is getting a little bit hairy now. So this knight's in an absolute pin, and so is the pawn. So I'd like to persuade the bishop to move along, even if it means giving up a piece. I'm currently up a knight, so I'm going to play a6, I think. Now, at this level, at 1000 to 1500, we're going to say, okay, how many ways can I do that? Well, I've got one way, really, of harassing the bishop. If he moves back here, I've got pawn to b5, which is pretty cool. Notice that if I play these moves, the knight has no safe retreat square. So if it's attacked, say, by this pawn, where's it going to go? I might have to give it up. Now, giving it up for that central pawn is maybe not the end of the world. But here, if the bishop just retreats on this diagonal, I still don't have a safe square for my knight to go. If I push this pawn again, my knight could come back to a6. If this pawn wasn't here, I notice I have the option of queen b6 check, forking the bishop, but the pawn is there. However, these hypothetical questions are not bad. Let's push a6. Okay, he attacks. Right, we already know. Okay, we're in tactics mode. Not safe, not safe, not safe. Not safe because knight or queen can take. Not safe because pawn can take. Can't go there. So my knight has no squares. Therefore, I'm going to snatch the bishop without a second thought. He takes back. Now my knight has a safe square. Okay, so what do I want to do? Not lose my knight. That's the correct answer. It's not what do I have to do, move my knight or whatever, because it may be defend my knight, which of course I'm being attacked by a pawn is not really relevant in this case. But there might be other ideas such as counter-attacking, whatever. Okay, so I want to save my knight. I can't put it there, 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 because queen takes. Can't put it there because pawn takes. I'm going to move it back here. That also happens to defend this square, which could... Okay, so the checklist let me down to some degree there. Okay, very, very good. Well played. I would be surprised if my opponent played less than 1350 there. 75%, 1550. Okay, so where is the blunder? Right, simply I failed. Well, I spotted that this was pinned. The extra thought I should have given is these squares are now not protected by that pawn. Therefore this square is unprotected, therefore knight there is actually checkmate. Okay, so I did this. The best move was simply to lift this pawn. Goodness me. But yeah, my Frosty there had to play at a higher level than his rating there. So let's do it again. Let's take on Frosty again. We have an English opening. Okay, I'm going to put a pawn in the centre. Obviously, there's no tactics on move one, ever. Alright, why did my opponent make that move? He's developing, controlling the centre. Going to develop my knight and just make sure this pawn is protected because it wasn't previously. Why did my opponent make that move? Probably to fianchetto his bishop on g2, which might attack the knight, but it's not happening yet. So we're just going to keep developing. Okay, knight's f3. Why do you make that move? He's attacking this and this. Is the pawn defended? It is. So I'm inclined now to develop this bishop so I can castle. And I'm going to stick it here to attack this knight, which is doing a job. It's controlling the centre. Okay. I'm not going to take the knight now. For one reason, it's well defended by two pawns. But another reason is my opponent may waste time pushing pawn to a3. So I want to get my other bishop out into the board, seeing as there's no immediate tactics, right? Yep. Scan. This is under attack. It's defended. Now it's defended twice. And what's more, this bishop can get out into the board. Now I take the knight. Okay. So he now has an isolated pawn. That's what's changed on the board. He has 4 pawns on C, D, and E, whereas previously he had 3. Okay, so I'm going to keep developing. There's no immediate tactics. The only thing under attack is this, and it's very well defended. So bring out the bishop. I'm going to put it as far up the board as possible. He attacks again. What do I do? Okay, I've got a piece under attack by a piece of less value. It is defended, but it's under defended. If it's being attacked by a pawn, I would only win a pawn back. So I want to retreat. Should we come back to here and harass this pawn? Let's do that. I'm not blocking the defense of this guy. Okay, why did my opponent make that move? Well, he's not playing better than he was in the previous game. Free pawn. Can I take it safely? And the answer is I can. What I need to look out for is a potential queen check here to win the bishop, right, with a fork. That's not possible right now because of this knight here. So I need to ask myself, can my opponent set that up? If I take this pawn, you can't do that straight away because I've just got b5 actually. In fact, I've always got b5. So I'm going to snatch the pawn. Keep my bishop on the board. It's my only bishop. It's precious to me. Okay, I'm going to stick it back here. Okay, we're in tactics mode. Piece of greater value under attack by a piece of lower value. So my idea, what do I need to do? We're in tactics. Okay, what I need to do is save the bishop. I could move it here, I could move it here, or here, or here. Okay, out of those moves, I prefer this. If he takes me, I'm happy to take towards the centre with my pawn. Take towards the centre with my pawn. No question asked. My queen was under attack, straight into tactics. Okay, he made that move to attack this undefended pawn. What do I want to do? Not lose the pawn. Now at this level you might think about things like counterattacks and sacrifices. I might also think about just a move like castles, giving up the pawn if there's an advantage in it for me. But I think right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to play rook to b8. That does two things. Defends the pawn, and that's very much defended against the queen attack. And it also gets my rook out of line of this sniper fianchettoed bishop. Okay, why did my opponent make this move? He's attacking an undefended pawn on e6. So, we're into tactics. I want not to lose the pawn. Could I block with the knight? Well, after bishop takes and pawn takes, then this pawn here is defended by my knight. No, it's not. If I move the knight there, there's no knight. Okay. It's early. What is it? 20 past 2 in the afternoon. Okay. I want not to lose the pawn. I could move my king here, here, or here. I would prefer not to do that because I lose castling rights. So I'm just going to lift my queen. Why did my opponent play that move? That is unclear. What's changed on the board? Any threats? Not really. If he pushes all the way to here, I just push b6. So I'm going to castle. Right? Because I've not finished development yet. It's move 14. I've not finished development yet. Frosty hasn't finished development either. Plus, with this move, having already moved the other rook, we know now that Frosty cannot castle. So what's changed with this move? The bishop's the only defender of h3. The rook now defends this. The rook's in line with my king. So just something to remember there. Okay, I'm now in the middle game. My opponent really isn't, but he can't really complete development. He's got to bring his bishop off the back rank and ideally move his king to connect his rooks, but these rooks are going to be unconnected for some time in the game. And because I'm in the middle game, my role here, my objective, my default, seeing as there are no particular tactics, yes, we've got bishop attacking knight, I can recapture with the queen, or with the pawn. Probably the queen, because I don't really want to trade a queen for two rooks. So I don't need to worry about that. So ideas involve. Now, the default in the middle game is not to develop. I'm already developed. What I want to do now is to improve my pieces. So, I would love to put a rook on e8 to line it up with my opponent's king, seeing as I know, as previously discussed, my opponent's king cannot castle. I can't move this rook without leaving this pawn hanging. I don't want to do that. There's no need to do that. So I could push this pawn. I quite like this rook on f8 because there's no black pawn on this file. Might have ideas about moving my knight at some point. So I think the move pawn to b6. Now, before I drop that, am I confident? The bishop can take my knight. I can recapture with the queen. I'm okay with that. Why did my opponent play that move? Putting two attackers on the knight. Good move. Okay, so two attackers, one defender. He's got queen takes. If I trade, I've lost a piece. Okay. I can't move the knight and defend the queen, but the queen is actually defended by this knight. Therefore, one can here move one's knight. I'm inclined to move it centrally. It might come here. That seems like a viable option. What else have we got? And this is the key. This is one of the things that really marks out the difference between a weaker and a stronger player. When you see a good move, as is famously said, look for a better one. Is there a better one? Pawn to a6 drops a pawn. Now, in fact, I've got to do something about this knight because I'm facing the potential of losing a piece. I can't summon another defender of the knight, so I can't actually see a better move than knight to e7 now. So that's what I'm going to play. Bishop in, loses a piece. Okay. Why did my opponent make that move? Well, he's attacking b6. Is b6 sufficiently defended? It's defended 3 times. We also have tension between the queens. Either queen could capture the other. I think trading queens is fine in this position. I could also lift up my knight. Let's do that. That's my preference. My queen is still defended by this guy. This is an improvement. If he trades his bishop off, I capture with this pawn or with the other knight. In fact, not with the other knight, because that would hang my queen. You see the value of the sanity check here. I wasn't sanity checking at the lower levels, and you should always. Is this an option? Attack the queen. Bishop can't take because I simply take the bishop. So that might be an idea. Start pushing these pawns up the board. Queen could come in here, fair enough. Okay, this pawn is now under attack and defended, so I'm okay with that. I'm inclined now just to be pushing my central pawns. He's got 3 pawns now on file C to E. I've got 4. So let's press the advantage. I can't attack the queen. There's no light squared bishop. In fact, I've got no bishops. So knight here is still a thought. That attacks an undefended pawn. The next question is, what's my opponent's best response? Now, you don't really ask that at sub 500, but we're at 1350 now. What if c4? Well, I could still go to this square and attack the rook, but then what if rook b3? Am I trapped? I can still come here with the idea of coming here and attacking the queen. The queen's getting close to trapped in that position. If I push pawn to d5, I'm not worried about this pawn because queen defends. Not worried about this pawn because pawn defends. If pawn takes pawn, and so actually, yeah, he's got 3 attackers on here. He could be planning to win a pawn at this point. I am currently up a pawn, but moving either knight to here actually defends. So I'm maybe thinking about moving this knight. Sanity check. Hover with the piece, hold it there. Don't release until you're confident within the limit of your own knowledge. Okay, that it is the correct move. Now, not the correct move, let's not put it that way. That you're happy with the move. We still have 3 attackers on this. Okay, so I'm just seeing what's changed on the board. Why did my opponent do that? Well, he's trading a minor piece for another minor piece. Now, I've got a few options here. I can take with this pawn, this knight. Unless there's an alternative. A better attack. But I just think centralizing the knight makes a lot of sense. I realise if I take with this pawn, I've got discovered attack on the pawn on h3. This is quite interesting. I'd get what's known as the indestructible pawn cube, colloquially, in the middle. But I think I like to keep my pawns connected here. This is still defended. If I take with a knight, that defends this. Yeah, sold. Not going to overthink it. I'm attacking an undefended pawn. Okay, there we go. Right, so we can now explore this option. Why did my opponent make that move? I've got a strong centralized knight. So he's pushed pawn to c4. It's now part of a pawn chain, so it's protected. And he's attacking my knight, which is a good knight. Okay. So we're into tactics, because I've got a piece of higher value attacked by a piece of lower value. Options. I could move the knight here. Defense is not an option. Counter-attacking may be an option, but this one doesn't work. I think this, I'm moving my knight into enemy territory, but then rook b3, and what have I got? This, I'm just dancing around. I'm inclined to play knight to c7, hitting the queen. That actually hangs this pawn though, doesn't it? Yeah, if I play my knight here and queen takes. I could just put the knight back there. I don't see any value in this. It gives me no retreat. All I've got then is maybe this square, maybe this one. After rook b3, come here. I'm not attacking anything. I could come back there though. That's not a bad square. So there, attack the rook. There, and then here. Is there any benefit to that compared to just putting the knight back here on f6? Attack the rook moves. I come here. I'm not attacking anything there. Let's do this one. I can't see an immediate problem with it. Okay, and now this will attack both the queen and the rook. However, are we worried about this move? Okay, I've given the pawn back now. If I take with the pawn, that drops the knight. In fact, the knight is under attack now, so that's good to notice. Okay, the pawn has vacated the a5 square. The knight is under attack. Should I take here? I should. Rook takes. I win in exchange. Okay. Interesting. I can re-centralize my knight now. This pawn's still defended. This rook will be attacked, but it's defended. Is there a better move than knight d5? I can't attack his queen. I could take this pawn, but that then gives me really weird central pawns. This knight will be attacked twice, but defended adequately by a pawn. Here's another difference between weaker and stronger players, is that you're prepared to move, you're prepared to consider moves that you might, on first evidence, dismiss. Is this a good move? Knight's attacked twice, defended twice. The pawn on a7 is defended. If I move the knight here and this pawn takes, the queen takes back, I'll lose this pawn. If I take, everything's pretty much defended. Well, let's do it, just for giggles. Why did my opponent do this? He's attacking an undefended pawn. Okay, so you saw with the arrows, the first thing I was thinking of is queen f7, queen takes here. Wins the rook. King has to move, we win a rook. Because it's a queen fork and king and rook. Now, my opponent's also attacking this. So, first, tactical thinking. Now, it doesn't mean you're stuck in tactical thinking, right? Sometimes you can see a threat that might lose material, and above 1000 you might go, actually I'm okay with that, because there's some compensation or advantage. I don't expect players below 500 certainly, and less so below 1000, to consider that kind of compensation. So the other move I see here is queen d4 that defends this and also attacks f2. Okay, so if queen d4, e3, I can drop back to either of these two squares. I don't see an issue, let's play it. Also prevents his pawn from moving forward. Okay, this is the move we anticipated. Can't move here because rook takes. So I know I can move to either of these two squares. And for sake of argument, I'm going to put it on a light square. Defending this, okay. Now, can't I just come back here and renew this threat? Well, now this bishop can come to e3, which is interesting. And really, I don't see a benefit in inviting him to develop his bishop for free. So, I'll just drop back here. Okay, we have rook to f1. Okay, so why? Maybe he's got ideas of pushing this pawn. I'll be happy about that because it means I can resolve some of my ugly pawns. I'm up 2 pawns though at this point. Let's consider this move. Right? Based on that fact, I'm up 2 pawns. I've got weird ass pawns in the middle of the board. I would love to trade them off. Right? This move would be a blunder. I'd lose my queen. Okay. This pawn is undefended. Has been for some time. Oh, I've also undefended this guy, which is under attack. So I'm going to apply some tactical thinking. I could lift this rook or put it here. Or I could lift this rook. Let's lift this rook. Okay, my opponent's now attacking this pawn. He's attacking it twice. It's defended only once. Can I defend it again? Yeah, knight to d7. But that also hangs this. Knight here, doesn't work, hangs the knight. So now what we can do is we can try on the idea, well, what if I allow my opponent to take the material? Which you don't really do at sub 500. This is not something that I would consider in the Smash 500 course, for example. And again, a move like this just invites this, and that's another attacker on this pawn. Unnecessary. So, also, if I allow the queen to take here, this rook is undefended. Can I push it? Pawn takes. If I push it, rook takes, loses the rook. Push it, pawn takes. My queen has just become quite strong. I could put a rook behind her, try and come in for mate. I'll try that. And hang my queen. Okay, that was just poor. That was just poor. Again, Frosty is playing out of his skin. His little... I'd already said I can't play that move. I don't know why I did it. Okay, I've now got a lot of undefended pawns and the position collapses. I'll hit resign and check the game review. My feeling again is that Frosty... I wasn't playing my normal moves or my normal repertoire. Frosty also played low. So that's 0 from 2 against Frosty. And here's the thing, I'm trying to use my checklist and I'm still not doing it. And I'm trying to do it consciously, right? Very, very interesting. And I skipped the final one. Am I confident that that move is okay? Clearly not. I simply didn't ask the question. So yeah, I played that pretty badly. I was winning at this point. I simply did not. Did I? I don't think I considered the knight fork, right? Because I was stuck in tactics mode. The knight fork would have simply won a rook or an exchange. So yeah, if I was playing as me, maybe I'd have considered that, but I was, trying to follow the checklist at 1300, 1400 level. So there you go. Here we were fine. Equal, hangs the queen, resigns. So there you go. So what have we learned from this? This is what's important. The purpose of my channel is not for me to try and win every game. The purpose of what I'm doing right now is to show the mental discipline, and that has to include when it breaks down and fails. The reason why I lost that game is because I didn't follow the 7-point checklist. The checklist is the complete life cycle of your decision making that goes into candidate moves and then picking a move. And I didn't do it. I shat the bed at the last moment there. Okay? So I hope that's useful for you guys. I'm going to have to make another video now to get my revenge on that dastardly snowman. See you next time.